The shuttle docked with a soft hiss of pressure seals, and Jack Cole stepped onto Terminus Prime for the first time. The station was massive beyond anything humans had built. Its corridors stretched in every direction like the branches of some great metal tree, and thousands of alien species moved through them in an endless flow of color and sound. Jack adjusted his gray suit and picked up his single travel bag. He looked like what he was supposed to be, a diplomat, a man of words and handshakes. Nothing special, nothing dangerous. That was exactly how he wanted it. Lisa Grant was waiting for him at the arrival gate. She was younger than him by 15 years, with sharp eyes and a quick smile. She had been on Terminus Prime for 6 months already, preparing the way for this meeting. "You made it," she said, falling into step beside him. "How was the trip?" "Long," Jack said. 3 weeks in a metal tube gives you time to think. "Think about what?" "About how much I hate space travel." Lisa laughed. It was a good sound, honest. Jack had learned to appreciate honest sounds over the years. They were rare in his line of work. They walked through the station together, and Jack took note of everything. The way the Villani moved in small groups, their feathers bright and their voices like music. The way the Carthy kept to the shadows, their 4 eyes watching everything. The way the Dasari walked like they owned every floor they touched. The Dasari were the problem. Jack had read the files. A reptilian species, cold-blooded in more ways than one. They had been part of the Galactic Assembly for 3,000 years, and they had never once voted for peace when war was an option. They controlled 6 systems and wanted more. The disputed sector that humanity had claimed was in their path. "The council session starts in 4 hours, Lisa said. The Dasari delegation arrived yesterday. Their High Counselor is here personally." "Vrethkin," Jack said. "You know him?" "I know his type." They reached the human embassy, a small section of the station that Earth had been granted when they joined the Assembly 5 years ago. It was modest, functional. Humanity was still new to the galactic stage, and new species did not get the best rooms. Jack set his bag down and looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, his home, his reason for being here. "The other delegations are curious about you," Lisa said. "A lot of them have never seen a human up close before. What do they think of us?" "They think we're soft, short-lived, fragile." Lisa paused. "The Dasari have been telling everyone that we're a prey species that learned to use tools." Jack smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Let them think that. The council chamber was a vast circular room at the heart of Terminus Prime. Delegations from 47 species sat in tiered rows, each section marked with holographic symbols that Jack could not read. The air was thick with translation fields, turning every voice into something his ears could understand. Jack and Lisa took their seats in the human section. It was small and positioned near the back. New species did not get good seats either. The session began with formal greetings and procedural matters that Jack ignored. He watched the Dasari delegation instead. There were 6 of them, all tall and covered in dark green scales. Their leader sat at the center, a massive figure with golden bands around his arms that marked his rank. High Counselor Vrethkan, the most powerful member of the Zari Dominion. A warrior who had conquered 2 systems before entering politics. Jack had studied his record carefully. The counselor had never lost a battle. He had never shown mercy. He believed that strength was the only thing that mattered in the universe. When the matter of the disputed sector came up, Vrethkin rose to speak. The chamber fell silent. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "The Dasari Dominion claims this sector by right of power," he said. "We were traveling these stars when humans were still living in caves and hunting with sharpened sticks. They have no right to stand among us." Murmurs passed through the chamber. Jack remained still. Look at them, Brethkin continued, gesturing toward the human section. Small, weak. They come from a world of moderate climate and gentle conditions. They have never known true struggle. They are prey species playing at politics. More murmurs. Some of the delegations were nodding. Others looked uncomfortable. Jack noticed the Villani ambassador watching him with what might have been concern. Lisa leaned close. Are you going to respond? Not yet, Jack said. Brethkin finished his speech and sat down with a satisfied expression. The council moderator asked if the human delegation wished to reply. Jack stood slowly. Every eye in the chamber turned to him. The human delegation recognizes the long history of the Thesari Dominion, he said. His voice was calm and even. We also recognize that history is not ownership. The disputed sector is unclaimed by any treaty. Humanity's presence, there is legal under assembly law. Brethkin laughed. It was a harsh sound, like metal scraping metal. Legal? You hide behind words because you have nothing else. When has law ever stopped a stronger species from taking what they want? It hasn't, Jack admitted. But we hope that will change. More laughter from the Thesari delegation. Brethkin leaned forward in his seat, his yellow eyes fixed on Jack. Hope, the counselor said. That is what prey species cling to when they know they are about to die. Jack met his gaze without flinching. We all hope for things, counselor. I hope this matter can be resolved peacefully. And if it cannot? Jack let the question hang in the air for a moment. Then he simply sat down without answering. The session continued, but the tension did not fade. Jack could feel the Thesari watching him. He could feel the other delegations wondering what humanity would do when pushed. After the session ended, Lisa walked beside him back to the embassy. That could have gone better, she said. It went exactly as expected, Jack replied. They humiliated us in front of the entire assembly. They showed everyone who they are. That is valuable information. Lisa shook her head. I don't understand you sometimes. Jack stopped walking and turned to face her. Lisa, I have been doing this for a long time. Not always with words. Not always in rooms like that. The Thesari think they know what humans are. They think we are soft and weak and afraid. Let them keep thinking that. Why? Because underestimating your opponent is the worst mistake you can make. Jack started walking again. And Brethkin has been winning for so long that he has forgotten what it feels like to be wrong. Behind them, in the Thesari section of the station, Brethkin was speaking with his aide. The counselor's expression was smug and satisfied. The humans will fold, he said. They have no stomach for conflict. A small demonstration of force will send them running back to their little world. The aide nodded. What do you have in mind? Brethkin smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Something memorable. Arrange it for the reception tonight. I want every species in this station to see what happens when prey forgets its place. The aide bowed and hurried away to make the preparations. In his quarters. Jack Cole sat alone in the darkness, looking out at the stars. His hands were folded in his lap. They were still and steady. They were the hands of a man who had done terrible things in terrible places. They were the hands of a man who hoped he would never have to do them again. But hope, as the counselor had said, was a fragile thing, and Jack had learned long ago that peace was something you had to be willing to fight for. The reception hall was beautiful in a way that made Jack uncomfortable. Crystal formations grew from the walls like frozen waterfalls, casting rainbow light across the polished floor. Long tables held food from 100 different worlds. Music played from somewhere, a soft melody that seemed to come from the air itself. Jack stood near the edge of the room in his gray suit, watching the crowd. Diplomats from dozens of species moved through the space, talking and laughing and making deals that would shape the future of their worlds. This was how the galaxy worked. Not through wars and battles, but through conversations at parties like this one, at least. That was how it was supposed to work. Lisa appeared at his side, holding a glass of something blue and bubbling. You should try to look like you're enjoying yourself. I am enjoying myself, Jack said. This is my happy face. That's terrifying. I know. Commander Ben Torres joined them a moment later. He was the senior human security officer on Terminus Prime, a broad-shouldered man with kind eyes and a careful way of moving. Jack liked him immediately. You could tell a lot about a person by the way they moved. The Dazari are up to something, Ben said quietly. My people have noticed their guards positioning themselves around the room. It's not random. Jack nodded. I noticed. Should I call for backup? No, let them make their move. We need to see what they're planning. Ben looked uncertain, but he trusted Jack's judgment. That was good. Trust was hard to earn and easy to lose. Jack did not take it lightly. The evening continued. Jack made small talk with several delegations, always keeping one eye on the Dazari. Rethkan moved through the room like a predator, his golden arm bands catching the light. Other species stepped aside when he approached. Fear was a powerful tool, and the counselor knew how to use it. Around the middle of the evening, Lisa excused herself to speak with the Villani ambassador. Jack watched her cross the room, weaving through the crowd with natural grace. She was good at this work, better than him in many ways. He handled the hard conversations. She handled the people. That was when the Dazari guards made their move. Two of them stepped directly into Lisa's path. She tried to go around them, but they shifted to block her again. One of them held a drink in his clawed hand. Excuse me, Lisa said politely. I need to pass. The guard said nothing. He simply tilted his hand and let the drink spill down the front of her dress. The room went quiet. Conversation stopped. Every eye turned toward the scene unfolding near the center of the hall. Lisa stood frozen, blue liquid dripping from her clothes. Her face was red with embarrassment and anger, but she kept her voice steady. That was unnecessary. The second guard shoved her. Hard. She stumbled backward and nearly fell. Jack was already moving. He crossed the room in seconds, his footsteps silent on the polished floor. The crowd parted before him like water around a stone. He stopped between Lisa and the guards. His voice was calm. You will apologize to her. The guards looked at each other and laughed. One of them said something in the sorry that Jack did not need translated. The meaning was clear enough from the tone. Rethkan appeared behind his guards, his yellow eyes bright with amusement. Is there a problem, human? Your men assaulted my colleague, Jack said. I want an apology. An apology? Rethkan's voice dripped with contempt. For what? For touching your female? She should be grateful we noticed her at all. Humans are barely worth the effort. An apology, Jack repeated. That is all I am asking for. Rethkan stepped closer. He was taller than Jack by nearly a foot, his scale body thick with muscle. Up close, he smelled like copper and something chemical that Jack could not identify. You ask for nothing, the counselor said. You demand nothing. You are a prey species, human. You exist because we allow it. Remember that. Jack did not step back. He did not look away. I am remembering many things right now, counselor. Something flickered in Rethkan's eyes. Annoyance, perhaps. Or something deeper. He was not used to prey that did not flinch. You pretend to be brave, the counselor said. But I see what you are. All of your kind are the same. Soft, weak, afraid. He leaned closer, his breath hot against Jack's face. Let me show you what the strong do to the weak. He struck Jack across the face with the back of his clawed hand. The blow was hard enough to split Jack's lip. Blood welled up immediately, bright red against his pale skin. The sound of the impact echoed through the silent hall. Every delegation watched. The Villani, the Carthy, dozens of others. They all waited to see what would happen next. Jack raised one hand and touched his lip. He looked at the blood on his fingers. Then he looked at Vrethkan. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. You get one. Vrethkan blinked. What? I said you get one. That was it. That was your one free strike. Jack wiped the blood from his chin with the back of his hand. Use your next one carefully. The counselor stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed, a harsh and ugly sound that filled the hall. Threats from you? This is why your species will never matter. You do not have the strength to back up your words. He turned to address the assembled delegations. Let all present witness the cowardice of humanity. When struck, they do nothing. When challenged, they hide behind words. The disputed sector will belong to the Zasari Dominion. Any species that supports the human claim will face our displeasure. The message was clear. Humanity had been publicly humiliated. Anyone who stood with them would share their fate. Vrethkan swept out of the room with his guards behind him. The crowd slowly began to move and speak again, but the mood had changed. Conversations were quieter now. Eyes kept drifting toward the human delegation. Lisa touched Jack's arm. Are you okay? Fine, he said. It's just a split lip. That's not what I meant. Jack looked at her. His expression was calm, but his eyes were cold. Colder than she had ever seen them. I know what you meant. And yes, I am okay. But the counselor is not going to be. Ben Torres approached with a medical kit. Let me look at that. It's nothing. It's still bleeding. Jack let the commander clean and seal the wound. It took only a few seconds. Human medicine had come a long way in recent years. Across the room, the Villani ambassador was watching them. Her name was Mirith, and she had been one of the few delegations to show humanity any kindness since their arrival. She crossed the room and stopped before Jack. That was a mistake, she said softly. On my part? Jack asked. On his. Mirith's feathers rippled in a way that Jack had learned to recognize as concern. Vrethkan believes he knows what humans are. But I have studied your species. I have read your history. You are not prey. What are we then? Mirith looked at him for a long moment. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You are what happens when prey decides it has had enough. And that is far more dangerous than any predator. She walked away without another word. Jack watched her go. Then he turned to Lisa and Ben. I'm going back to the embassy. I need to make some calls. Calls to who? Lisa asked. Old friends. Jack adjusted his suit and began walking toward the exit. The kind of friends you hope you never need. In the Visari section of the station, Vrethkan was celebrating. His aides brought in drinks and praised his strength. The counselor basked in their attention like a lizard in the sun. The humans are finished, he said. Tomorrow we will make our final move. Prepare a team. We will take the female as a hostage and force them to withdraw their claim. The galaxy will see that strength is the only law that matters. His aides bowed and went to carry out his orders. Vrethkan smiled and raised his glass to the stars. Victory was certain. Humanity was weak. He had no idea how wrong he was. The human embassy was quiet at this hour. Most of the staff had gone to their quarters to sleep. The corridors were empty and dim, lit only by soft emergency lighting. Jack sat in his room with the lights off. The stars outside his window provided the only illumination, casting pale silver across his face. He had changed out of his suit and wore simple clothes now. A dark shirt, dark pants, practical shoes. His secure communication device sat on the table before him. He had not used it yet. Part of him hoped he would not need to. The door chimed. Lisa. Come in, he said. She entered and stopped when she saw him sitting in the darkness. What are you doing? Thinking. In the dark? It helps me focus. Lisa sat down across from him. In the dim light, her face was hard to read, but her voice was clear. Talk to me, Jack. What happened at that reception was wrong. They humiliated you. They humiliated all of us. And you just stood there. I know. Why? Why didn't you do something? Jack was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. Do you know why I became a diplomat, Lisa? Because you're good with words? No. He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. I became a diplomat because I spent 20 years being very good at something else. Something that haunts me every day. Lisa waited. Before the diplomatic corps, I was military. Special operations. The kind of work that never gets talked about in public. I went to places that didn't exist on any map. I did things that nobody will ever know about. Jack paused. His hands were steady, but his voice carried weight. They called me the Reaper. Not because I was fast or clever. Because when I was sent somewhere, people died. A lot of people. Lisa did not move. Did not speak. I have killed more beings than I can count, Jack continued. Humans and others. Bad people, mostly. But not always. Sometimes the lines got blurry. Sometimes I made choices that I still think about in the middle of the night. He looked at her. That is why I became a diplomat. Because I wanted to prove that I could solve problems without bloodshed. That I could be something more than what I was trained to be. Jack, Lisa's voice was barely a whisper. When Vrethkan struck me, I could have killed him. Right there, in front of everyone. It would have taken less than 3 seconds. But that is not why I am here. I am here to build bridges, not burn them. And if they don't let you build bridges? Jack's expression did not change. Then I tear down their walls. His communication device buzzed. Jack picked it up and activated the holographic display. A face appeared in the air above the table. Admiral Frank Patterson, commander of Earth's expeditionary fleet. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. Jack, the admiral said, I got your message. What's happening out there? The Dazari have made their intentions clear. They want the disputed sector, and they're willing to use force to take it. They assaulted Lisa at the reception tonight and struck me in front of the entire assembly. Patterson's jaw tightened. Are you injured? Nothing serious. But they're testing us, seeing how far they can push before we push back. I can have Marines on the station within 18 hours. Just say the word. Jack shook his head. No. If we bring in troops, we prove their point. We show the galaxy that humans solve problems with guns. That's not the message we want to send. Then what do you suggest? Let me handle it. My way. Patterson was quiet for a moment. He had known Jack for a long time. He knew what Jack was capable of. You sure about this? No, Jack admitted. But it's the right play. If I can resolve this without a single human soldier setting foot on this station, it sends a message that's worth more than any military victory. And if it goes wrong, then you can send your Marines. Jack paused. But it won't go wrong. Patterson nodded slowly. All right. But I'm keeping my people on standby. The moment this turns hot, I'm coming in. Understood. The connection ended. Jack set the device down and looked at Lisa. She was staring at him like she had never seen him before. What? He asked. You're not just a diplomat, are you? You never were. I'm whatever I need to be. In another part of the station, a Thesari intelligence officer named Chiron was having a very bad night. He sat at his terminal, surrounded by screens filled with data, and felt something he had not felt in a long time. Fear. He had started his research casually. His superiors wanted to know more about the human diplomat who defied Vrethkan so calmly. They expected to find nothing. Another soft, weak creature from a backwater world. What Chiron found was something else entirely. The file was heavily classified. Most of it was still locked behind encryption that even the sorry systems could not break. But the fragments he could access told a story that made his scales go cold. Jack Cole, former Special Operations Commander. 20 years of service in conflicts that the humans did not acknowledge publicly. 47 confirmed high-value extractions. 32 deep cover missions behind enemy lines. Survived encounters that killed everyone else in his unit. Multiple times. There was a nickname attached to one of the reports. A translation from an alien language. The Reaper. And there were incident reports. Brief and heavily redacted, but terrifying in their implications. A single human operative infiltrating a fortified compound and eliminating the entire garrison. A rescue mission where one man extracted 12 hostages from a force of over 200 guards. A diplomatic summit where an assassination attempt was stopped by a single individual who killed 7 attackers in less than 10 seconds. Chiron pushed back from his terminal. His hands were shaking. He had to tell Vrethkan. The counselor was planning to abduct the human female tonight. He was going to send 12 soldiers against people who looked weak and harmless. Against people who had a trained killer in their midst. Chiron ran through the corridors of the Zari section until he reached the counselor's quarters. He requested entry with urgent priority. Vrethkan looked annoyed when he appeared. "What is it?" "Counselor, the human diplomat. Jack Cole. I have found his military record. And? He is dangerous, Counselor. Extremely dangerous. The humans call him the Reaper. He has killed dozens of enemies in single combat. Maybe more. The records are incomplete, but what I found is enough to know that he is not what he appears." Vrethkan listened. Then he laughed. "Human propaganda," he said dismissively. "They want us to think they are strong. It is a bluff. A prey species cannot be dangerous. Counselor, please. The evidence suggests that humans are capable of extreme violence when provoked. Their planet is classified as a death world by galactic standards. Their evolution was shaped by constant conflict and predation. They only appear weak because they choose to be peaceful. Enough. Enough." Vrethkan's voice was hard. "I have seen the human with my own eyes. I struck him across the face, and he did nothing. If he were truly dangerous, he would have acted. He's a coward hiding behind words. But, Counselor, the operation proceeds as planned. We take the female. We show the galaxy what happens to those who stand against the Visari Dominion. And if the human tries to stop us, we will crush him like the insect he is." Chiron bowed his head. There was nothing more he could say. When Vrethkan made a decision, it was final. But as he left the counselor's quarters, he could not shake the feeling that they had all made a terrible mistake in the human embassy. Jack Cole finished his preparations. He checked the small emergency kit he kept in his bag. Medical supplies. A few tools. Nothing that would be considered a weapon by station security. He did not need weapons. He was the weapon. Lisa watched him from the doorway. "They're going to come for me, aren't they?" "Probably. Should I stay here? Lock myself in?" Jack shook his head. "It won't matter. If they want to take you, locked doors won't stop them. And I want them to make their move. You're using me as bait? I'm trusting you to be brave." Jack looked at her. "Can you do that?" Lisa was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "Yes, I can do that. Good." Jack put a hand on her shoulder. "I will not let anything happen to you. I promise. And what happens when they come?" Jack's eyes went cold. The same cold that Lisa had seen at the reception. The cold of a man who had walked through fire and come out the other side. Then they learn why humans are still alive after 100,000 years on a world that tried to kill them every single day. They came for Lisa at 3 in the morning, station time. The Thesari moved through the human embassy like shadows. 12 soldiers in total, their scales painted with dark pigments to blend into the dim corridors. They bypassed the security systems with codes that someone had sold them. They moved past the sleeping staff without making a sound. Lisa was in her quarters when the door opened. She had been waiting, just as Jack had told her to. She did not scream when the soldiers entered. She did not fight when they grabbed her arms and bound her wrists. She simply looked at the lead soldier and said, "He's going to come for me." The soldier laughed. "We are counting on it." They took her through the back corridors of the station, avoiding the main passages where they might be seen. Their destination was the Thesari diplomatic vessel, docked at the far end of Terminus Prime. Once Lisa was aboard, she would be beyond the reach of station law. A bargaining chip. A trophy. The soldiers never saw Jack following them. He moved through the shadows like a ghost. 20 years of training had made stealth as natural to him as breathing. He tracked them by sound and by the subtle vibrations in the deck plating. He stayed close enough to act if needed, far enough to remain invisible. Commander Ben Torres contacted him through his earpiece. "Jack, station security just confirmed the breach. 12 Thesari soldiers entered the human section 40 minutes ago. They have Lisa." "I know," Jack whispered. "I'm following them. Do you want backup?" "I can have a team ready in 5 minutes." "No, stay back. If this turns into a firefight, people will die. I want to keep this quiet." "Quiet?" "They have 12 soldiers, Jack. You're one man." Jack did not respond to that. There was nothing to say that the Thesari reached their vessel and brought Lisa aboard. The airlock sealed behind them with a heavy clang. 2 guards remained outside to watch for pursuit. Jack waited until they turned their backs. Then he moved. The first guard went down without a sound. Jack came up behind him and applied pressure to specific points on his neck. The Thesari's nervous system shut down instantly. He would wake up in a few hours with a headache and no memory of what happened. The second guard heard something and started to turn. Jack was already there. A strike to the throat cut off any cry of alarm. A sweep of the legs brought the soldier down. A knee to the head ended the fight before it began. 2 down. 10 to go. Jack accessed the airlock controls and forced the door open manually. The corridor beyond was empty, but lit with harsh red emergency lighting. He stepped inside and let the door close behind him. The Thesari vessel was laid out in a standard pattern. Jack had memorized the blueprints before leaving Earth. He knew where they would take a prisoner. He knew the fastest route to get there. He also knew they would be expecting him. The first patrol appeared, around a corner without warning. 3 soldiers. Jack did not hesitate. He grabbed the nearest one and used him as a shield against the others. 2 quick strikes disabled the second. A spinning kick caught the third in the jaw. All 3 were down in less than 4 seconds. 5 down. 7 to go. Alarms began to sound. Someone had found the unconscious guards at the airlock. The ship went to high alert. Jack moved faster. 2 more soldiers appeared at the end of a corridor, weapons raised. Jack grabbed a metal panel from the wall and threw it like a discus. It struck the first soldier in the chest and knocked him backward. Jack closed the distance before the second could fire. An elbow to the face. A knee to the stomach. A throw that sent the soldier crashing into the wall. 7 down. 5 to go. On the bridge of the Thesari vessel, Breathkin watched the security feeds with growing disbelief. One human, one small, soft, fragile human was cutting through his soldiers like they were children. How is this possible? He demanded. Chiron stood beside him, his face grim. I tried to warn you, counselor. Humans are not what they appear. They are Death Worlders. Their planet shaped them into predators more efficient than any species we have encountered. Predators do not look like that. They are small, weak. Their size is an advantage. It makes others underestimate them. Tyron pointed at the screen. Watch how he moves. Every action is precise, efficient, no wasted motion. This is not someone who learned to fight for sport. This is someone who was built for killing. On the screen, Jack took down 2 more soldiers who tried to ambush him from a side passage. He used the walls and door frames as weapons, bouncing his opponents off hard surfaces until they stopped moving. His face showed no emotion, no anger, no fear, just cold, absolute focus. 9 down. 3 to go. The last 3 soldiers had positioned themselves outside the room where Lisa was being held. They had built a barricade from furniture and equipment. They had their weapons aimed at the only entrance. Jack appeared at the end of the corridor. He stopped, looked at them. Then he started walking forward. Fire! One of the soldiers shouted. Energy bolts streaked down the corridor. Jack moved between them like water flowing around stones. The shots hit walls and floor, but never touched him. The soldiers kept firing, panic making their aim worse with every second. Jack reached the barricade and went over it in a single leap. He landed among them like a thunderbolt. Fists and elbows and knees moved in a blur of controlled violence. The soldiers tried to fight back, but it was like trying to stop a storm with their bare hands. 10 seconds later, all 3 were unconscious on the floor. 12 down. 0 to go. Jack stepped over the bodies and opened the door to the holding room. Lisa was inside, her hands still bound, her eyes wide. But she was unharmed. Jack, she breathed. He moved to her side and cut her bindings with a small blade from his kit. Are you okay? I'm fine. I'm fine. She looked at him. Really looked at him. His clothes were torn. His knuckles were bleeding. But there was not a scratch on him from enemy fire. You took down 12 soldiers. Yes. By yourself. Yes. Without killing any of them. Jack met her eyes. I promised you I would keep you safe. I didn't promise them anything. They moved through the ship toward the bridge. The corridors were empty now. Every soldier aboard had already been dealt with. The only ones left were Vrethkan and his aides. The bridge door opened, and Jack stepped through. Vrethkan stood at the center of the room, surrounded by 4 aides who looked terrified. The counselor's golden armbands gleamed in the dim light. His yellow eyes were fixed on Jack with an expression that might have been fear or might have been fury. Jack stopped a few meters away. He was covered in blood that was not his own. His breathing was steady. His hands hung loose at his sides. Counselor, he said, we need to talk. Vrethkan's voice was a rasp. What are you? I'm a diplomat. Jack took a step closer. I'm also the man you struck at the reception. The man you called weak. The man you thought was prey. Another step. I warned you. I said you get one. That was your free strike. Your one chance to walk away without consequences. You cannot do this. This is an act of war against the Thessari Dominion. No, this is a rescue mission. You kidnapped a human citizen. I got her back. Every soldier I disabled is still alive. I have started nothing. I have declared nothing. Jack's voice dropped. But if you want a war, I will give you one. And it will not be fought with fleets and armies. It will be fought in the shadows, where I live, where I work, where I have spent my entire life learning how to end threats without anyone knowing I was ever there. Vrethkan said nothing. Here is what happens next, Jack continued. You release us from this ship. Tomorrow, you go before the assembly and withdraw your claim to the disputed sector. You apologize for the actions at the reception, and you never threaten humanity again. And if I refuse? Jack smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was not a human smile. It was the smile of a predator who had caught its prey and was deciding whether to let it live. Then I come back. And next time, I won't be so gentle. Silence filled the bridge. The aides looked at their counselor, waiting for orders. Kieran quietly stepped to the side, distancing himself from whatever decision was about to be made. Finally, Rethkan spoke. His voice was hollow. Go. Take your female and go. Jack nodded once. He took Lisa's hand and led her toward the door. He paused at the threshold and looked back. I told you at the reception that I hoped this could be resolved peacefully. I still hope that. But hope is something you have to earn, counselor. Tomorrow, you have a chance to earn it. They walked off the ship together, leaving Rethkan standing alone among his failures. Behind them, the counselor sank into his chair and stared at the screens that showed the unconscious bodies of his soldiers. For the first time in his long life, he understood what it meant to be prey. The council chamber was full the next morning. Word had spread through Terminus Prime like fire through dry grass. Something had happened on the Thesari vessel. Something that changed everything. Jack walked into the chamber wearing a fresh gray suit. His knuckles were bandaged, but otherwise he looked exactly as he had on the first day. Calm, composed, unremarkable. Lisa walked beside him. She had refused to stay behind at the embassy. After what they had been through together, she was not about to let him face the council alone. Every eye in the chamber followed them as they took their seats. The whispers were loud enough to hear. Impossible. 1 man. 12 soldiers. Without weapons, the Villani delegation watched them with something close to awe. The Korathi watched with calculating interest. Even species that had shown no interest in humanity before were now paying attention. The Thesari section was nearly empty. Only Vrethkan and 2 aides sat in seats that had held 6 yesterday. The counselor's golden armband seemed duller somehow. His scales had lost their shine. He looked old in a way he had not looked before. The council moderator called the session to order. The first matter on the agenda was the disputed sector. Rethkan rose to speak. The chamber fell silent. The Zazari Dominion, he began, and his voice cracked. He paused, swallowed, tried again. The Zazari Dominion withdraws its claim to the disputed sector. We recognize humanity's legal right to the territory under assembly law. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The Zazari had never withdrawn from anything. This was unprecedented. Rethkan continued, each word seeming to cost him something precious. Furthermore, the Dominion apologizes for the incidents at the diplomatic reception. Our actions were inappropriate and do not reflect the values of the galactic community. We will compensate the human delegation for any harm caused. He sat down without another word. His aides stared straight ahead, their faces blank with shock. The moderator asked if the human delegation wished to respond. Jack stood. He looked around the chamber at the dozens of species watching him. Their expressions ranged from curious to fearful to confused. All of them were wondering the same thing. What kind of creature was this? What kind of species produced a being who could do what he had done and then stand here so calmly? The human delegation accepts the Thesari Dominion's withdrawal and apology, Jack said. His voice was even and warm. We also want to make something clear to the entire assembly. He paused. Let the silence build. Humanity does not want war. We never wanted war. We joined the galactic community because we believe that cooperation is better than conflict. That trade is better than conquest. That friendship is better than fear. Jack looked directly at Rethkan. But we will not be bullied. We will not be threatened. And we will not abandon our people when they are in danger. He turned to address the full chamber. I was a soldier once. I spent 20 years learning how to end conflicts through force. I have seen what war does to worlds and to people. I chose to become a diplomat because I believe there is a better way. Violence should always be the last option. Always. Jack's voice hardened slightly. But when it becomes necessary, we will not hesitate. Humans evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day. We survived ice ages and plagues and predators and each other. We are still here because we learned to be strong when we needed to be strong. We choose peace, but do not mistake that choice for weakness. The chamber was absolutely silent. I hope, Jack concluded, that this will be the beginning of a new understanding between humanity and the Desari Dominion, and between humanity and all species of the Assembly. We are not your enemies. We want to be your friends. But friends do not strike each other. Friends do not kidnap each other. Friends treat each other with respect. He sat down. The session continued with other matters, but nobody was really paying attention. The words that Jack had spoken hung in the air like thunder after lightning. Every delegation was already composing messages to their governments. Every intelligence agency was updating their files. Humanity had arrived, and they were nothing like what anyone had expected. After the session, Ambassador Mirith found Jack in the corridor outside the chamber. Her feathers were arranged in a pattern that Jack had learned to recognize as deep respect. "That was remarkable," she said. "I have been in this assembly for 30 years. I have never seen the Desari back down from anything." "They made a mistake," Jack said. "I gave them a chance to correct it. Most species would have demanded blood, revenge. You showed mercy." Jack shook his head. "I showed them what mercy looks like when it comes from strength. There's a difference." Marath studied him for a long moment. "May I ask you something personal?" "Of course. How do your people remain so peaceful? You clearly have the capacity for extreme violence. Your history is filled with wars and conflicts. Yet when you reached the stars, you chose diplomacy. Why?" Jack was quiet for a moment, considering the question. "Because we know what we're capable of," he finally said. "Humans have done terrible things to each other over the centuries. We have built weapons that could destroy our entire world. We have committed acts of cruelty that I cannot even describe. We know the darkness that lives inside us." He looked out a nearby window at the stars. "And because we know that darkness, we fight against it. We choose to be better. Not because we are weak, but because we are strong enough to make that choice. Peace is harder than war, Ambassador. It requires more courage, not less." Mirith's feathers rippled with emotion. "Your species is going to change everything, aren't you?" "I hope so," Jack said. "I hope we change things for the better." They parted ways, and Jack returned to the human embassy. Lisa was waiting for him in his quarters with 2 cups of coffee. Real coffee, shipped all the way from Earth. A luxury on Terminus Prime. "You did good today," she said, handing him a cup. "We did good." Jack took a sip and closed his eyes. After weeks of synthetic substitutes, the real thing was almost overwhelming. "None of this would have worked without you. I didn't do anything. You were the one who took down 12 soldiers and scared the most powerful species in the sector into surrendering. You trusted me." Jack opened his eyes and looked at her. "When I told you to be brave, you were brave. That matters more than you know." Lisa smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. "So what happens now?" "Now we do the hard work. Building relationships. Making trade agreements. Proving that humanity is worth having around." Jack set down his coffee. "The easy part is over." "That was the easy part." "Compared to what comes next?" "Yes." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars through the window. Somewhere out there, ships were already carrying news of what had happened. Within weeks, every corner of the galaxy would know about humanity. About the small, soft creatures who looked like prey, but fought like predators. About the species that chose peace, but would never allow that choice to be mistaken for weakness. A message arrived on Jack's secure device. He glanced at it. Admiral Patterson, asking for a debrief. "Duty calls," he said. "It always does." Jack stood and straightened his suit. Before he left, he turned back to Lisa. "You asked me once if I would ever tell you my full story. And you said maybe over coffee." Jack smiled. For the first time since Lisa had known him, it reached his eyes. "When this mission is over, I'll buy you a cup. A real one, back on Earth. And I'll tell you everything. I'll hold you to that." Jack nodded and walked out to face whatever came next. Behind him, Lisa finished her coffee and looked out at the infinite darkness between the stars. Humanity was out there now. Part of something bigger than Earth. Part of a community that had existed for millions of years before the first human ever looked up at the sky and wondered what was out there. They had taken their first real step. And they had taken it the way humans always did, with courage, with compassion, and with a strength that the galaxy was only beginning to understand. In the intelligence databases of 47 species. A new entry was being added to the file on humanity. Classification: Apex Diplomatic Priority. Approach with caution. Do not underestimate. Do not provoke. And in smaller text, a note that would be studied by military analysts for generations to come. Humans are the only known species that can make mercy look more terrifying than violence. Handle accordingly.